Live. Let's see what we got going on here. All right. Quote of the day. Sooner or later, those who win are those who think they can. Let's see. The conference for the spring E3 dates. Let's see. For March 2026. I'm 90% sure it's going to be the same weekend, the third weekend of the month, the 19, 20, 21 for March. Great time. All right, so let's go there. Let's go there. Recording. Wonderful. Thanks for joining the music hour, where we inspire through music. No, I'm just kidding. Not my music.
Just curious, Michael. Why is that you have a different, um, you have a different quote than I get. So
You got
just
a different one than me?
yeah, mine is saying here, learning is an ornament in prosperity, a refuge in adversity, and a provision in old age. By Aristotle. Yeah,
Yes.
just wondering why it's yours is we don't have the same. So
Yeah, I just reloaded it. Same one.
yeah, I did too. I reloaded it. I thought, well, maybe because I've been using this, so I got another tab and it's still showing the same. Wonder if I log out.
Yeah, it's the first time I heard that.
Anyway, both are
Does
good.
everyone else have the same quote? That's funny. Yeah, yep. Hey, real quick, Gilda, while you're here, can you tell us about the First Door Challenge Chicago edition? Um, the stats, the how did it go? What was your celebration party like? Did you get more people enrolled in round two? You got a quick update on the First Door Challenge you can share with everybody?
Yeah, we finished it last week. We wrapped it up and we had our potluck Saturday for the intensive. And yeah, so yeah, they were going through I didn't get the whole time I was there because I had to help at the intro room, so I had to leave like halfway through. So basically, people were getting, but I don't have they didn't really give us the numbers or what the numbers, how many had deals and how many didn't. And so yeah, it's I like I said, I left, like about halfway that they were doing it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but I know there's people, a lot. I mean, me personally, I closed like well, three deals. Wasn't an equity, but it was more, it was like creative. So I was helping people, I made money on it, but not equity. So and I have
Okay.
two that are actually, waiting to close. I don't have a contract yet because they're still looking to find a property, but we already agreed on the price of those properties. So yeah, it worked. I mean, for me, it worked, and I couldn't even finish, all the homework because it was a lot, and I have, it's busy for me for my mortgage job, and then I have a lot of deadlines. So but I really wanted to just join it just to see what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And but even with that, but I'm still intending to finish my homework. I didn't finish my homework. I mean, I was so behind, but but I was still showing up because I was volunteering on Thursdays. So even if I was behind with my homework, I still showed up. So to me, it's just an amazing thing. And I can see it, especially with the new people that are starting. It sets a great foundation for them to do and just be able to take action right there and then. So
Ditto.
it's very it's a really good guided process.
It is. It's
Yeah.
very good. Very
Mm.
detailed, I thought.
Very detailed. So
Excellent.
yeah.
So it's
So I
not
love
just
it. I recommend it to, everybody. And, for me, it just happened that it was like my time is just the busiest in the summer. And I tried to keep up, but again, with I have a lot of deadlines but I was still, trying to do as much as I can, and I still showed
awesome.
progress.
Likewise.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise for me, Gilda. I was helping my sister with my deceased uncle's estate in his house. I got it all rehabbed. We got it on the market, and the first day we got a 5,000 over ask offer on it. So I was extremely busy, but back to the details on that, I thought it was a great detail. It was paced and designed to give you an hour of homework every night, Michael. And I think it's fantastic. I wanted to go through the process to see what people that I brought into it might see. So it was the first time through. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. Were you there, Doug, the whole time? When they went over what people did and stuff?
I was not at the yeah, you know what? I was online the whole time.
Okay.
So I was
Yeah.
online last Thursday. Yep.
Okay. Because I left like in
Yep.
halfway because I had to be in the intro room. So,
There was a fair amount of success and some people that
yeah.
probably would have never got off of now never got off the starting line that got involved and got a lot of stuff done, got through a lot
Right.
of the training, a lot of the education, which is Michael and Gilda, we can agree is one of the hardest things to get people to push through, right?
Even though they
Yeah.
paid for
So
it.
Yeah. And there was even one. How much was that he, he's gonna be making? He hasn't closed it yet, but I think it was great. He was able to well that was to me that was it's so amazing where he actually was able to save this person that had a child, like a grandchild that was very, it was special special um child, and they were gonna get kicked out, and they were gonna foreclose the sheriff sale was gonna happen, or the auction was gonna happen. I can't remember if it was 11 o'clock, but they were able to file the um some kind of chapter 13, just to be able to stop the foreclosure. It's like an hour before. To me, that was just an amazing thing. And then he's doing a creative, thing where these people are gonna be able to stay there. Otherwise, they would have been, kicked out if it would have been the bank that would do that. So that was, to me, that was just an awesome thing. And so it just, reminds, just us, how important what we do, and helping people's real estate challenge. So I
Right. It's
love
not
it. I love
just
it here. I love this community. I love the challenge. And so yeah, it's
it's working.
so thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the
Sorry, Doug.
update.
I didn't know if you still had something to say. I didn't want to cut you off. And
no, you're good. Thanks
uh,
for adding all that in there. I forgot about that. But yeah, that is a great detail. It was for me being remote and not in a big community. It's a great thing to attend, and I could see the value for distant people not in a group, remote, going through this 90-day challenge and first door challenge. But I love if I was in Utah or anywhere close, man, I'd be doing the thing with Mitch and Maley because there's nothing like doing it live and being around people. So, but yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Sweet. Well, just another great selling point for what we have to offer and how people really are getting the results that they're after. Yes, it's hard, but the whole game is hard. Whether you got your paycheck to paycheck life, or you're an investor, business owner. It's all hard. And but we have the system and the guidance. So when you're out there telling people why they should, one, get into real estate, but even more importantly, why they should use our training program, it's just more and more and more evidence. It just keeps stacking up as to why we're the best. One other thing that you guys may or may not be taking advantage of is this iOS training with Jenna Hoover. She is the real deal. She does a ton of investing herself, and she's also on the development side of this software. And so that's going to be at 3 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Mountain Time.
I've been on it a few times. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and she walks the walk, she talks the talk. She can show you how to save a ton of time and find deals. Like the last one I was on, with the updates that they had done with the AI search bot and that analysis tool, incredible. So for some reason, there's a picture of Matt Snyder. I don't know why, but it's not him doing it. It's Jenna that's going to be doing it. So put that on your calendar. 2
Yeah,
p.m.
I agree
Mountain,
with you,
3 p.m.
Michael. Steve is so just such a wealth of knowledge, and you can tell she can just dissect, the iOS. Like, it's amazing how knowledgeable she is with that. So,
But don't miss it,
Michael,
folks.
Michael, why would you prefer a pretty face over Matt Snyder?
Oh,
Just kidding.
it's
Just kidding.
personal. We are lucky to have so many pretty faces in this community. For sure. Okay,
True.
well,
Very true.
yeah. Yep. All right, well, full steam ahead. Takeoff Tuesday. One thing I want to bring your attention to is the Super Saturday. For some reason, it's not on the calendar, but Maylee said it is approved on her side. I don't see it on mine. All right, well, let me show you the flyer real quick. Maybe not. Open. And the point of Super Saturdays is to develop skills and then to make them a permanent part of you. Okay, if you've been to a Super Saturday before, great. Try going to 100 because it's all about proficiency, getting better at it, the golden nuggets that you find. So we're going to be going over comp plan. We're going to be going over how to put in orders. We're going to be going over how to save a bunch of time while you're doing this, so it's not taking 40 hours a week. Actually, I don't know anyone other than maybe Mitch that's working 40 hours a week in Renatus, because it's not designed to do that, right? It's designed for like a 10, 15, maybe 20-hour a week effort, depending on your goals and your setup and your skills. Anyway, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Mountain Time. And be there. It's going to be awesome. One of the reasons why I think I can make the sales that I make and convert the ICMs that I convert is because I'm able to share the compensation plan. And when people see, I mean, think about this, 80%, 82, something like that, percent of Americans are dissatisfied with their jobs. That's so many. 4 out of 5 people do not like what they're doing for a paycheck. And so they haven't even considered selling for us because they didn't know it was an option. So real estate is so high up in the sky for some people, like, whoa, I gotta work years to be able to do that. But then when we say, hey, just sell for us, and go, oh, well, I can at least see that. So please do yourself a favor and show more people the comp plan. It also will smooth out the months where you make 20, 50 grand on a flip, but then the next couple months you don't do anything, and then you got 50 grand again. and the marketing will smooth out those peaks and those troughs. So learn a comp plan, come to Super Saturday, share, watch people's eyes open up and go, holy moly, I can actually do this. And lead a team. It's going to be awesome. Speaking of great team leadership, we got Bill Predebon on the call today. If you missed last week's episode of Invest Edge, it was a special edition with Mitch, Matt, and Bill, and Bill crushed it. So go check the recordings on the Renatus YouTube channel. Share that with some people, and because he goes over, some misconceptions around fix and flips and why new construction, working with professionals from the beginning, can really lower your stress, increase your profitability, enhance your reputation in the investor communities that you're working in, and yeah, some great insight into that. So go check that out. And one thing I admire about him is when I go back and look at all the team leaders and the area leaders, how many students did they enroll that actually did deals? I think Bill has one of the highest ratios, him and Mitch, of course, highest ratio of student to deal ratios. Almost every student that I've talked to that he's enrolled, they've said he's been, over the top supportive, helpful. And one thing that they can always rely on with this dude is speaking the truth, straight shooting, no sugarcoating, no wasting time. And that's one thing that we really respect and appreciate about him, is because it's a way of honoring people's time, being able to just straight shoot it. Yeah, you don't like it, but this is reality. Or great news, we just, whatever it is. And
He is the master of reality, right? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And whenever I get to travel with Bill, one of the things I notice constantly is he makes friends everywhere he goes. He is a capital raising machine. I forget the number now, 50 million, 60 million, I don't know, 20 million, some tens of millions of dollars he's raised and put to work and done deals with. So it's been an incredible journey to watch him work. And I'm excited to get to hang out with him next week in Utah and see all of your pretty faces as well. So let's give a big warm welcome to the man of the hour, Mr. Bill Predebon. Jim.
Woo-hoo! What's up, everybody?
Jim.
Hey,
Great to see you.
great to see all y'all. Yeah, next week already, man. Holy moly.
Can you believe it? We've been counting down the days and it's all coming together. Very exciting.
Yep.
Especially seeing the speaker lineup and each day is going to be jam packed. Everyone needs to bring their vitamins.
Yeah, it should be pretty fun getting together again, since we're missing out on the or not missing out, but since we changed it up from the leaders retreat, right?
Yep.
Would have already been there, so we would have already got our dose of family, if you will.
Right. So I was just thinking about that too. Like, which days am I staying up till 3 a.m.?
Right?
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Right on.
So rumor has it there's gonna be another rate cut this month and one in December. That would be not necessarily a record in the amount of rate cuts, but in the time period, the number of rate cuts. And I'm just wondering if you're watching any of that stuff, how your refis are going. I know some other people working on refis. Do you have any do's and don'ts when it comes to refining as a self-employed person versus W-2, and unlocking some of that equity and putting it back to work? Also, I want to get the number right. How much money have you raised in your career?
That's a good question. The last I counted was over 30 million. So,
Amazing.
I raised about $1 million for Oak Island with Nate, and another, I don't know, like 250,000 or so for Ocean Isle, which we're selling all those lots. We subdivided that to 12 lots. It's pretty good. When I say I really wasn't involved in that, but I mean, other than a limited partner. But they subdivided the whole thing and they're starting to sell off the lots. And then, what was the other thing I raised money for? I can't even think. So yeah, it's got to be between like 35 and 40 million, maybe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like I don't count once I raised the dollars, and if I used it again, I don't count it, or I didn't before anyway. You know what I mean? Like, so those are all fresh dollars from different people.
Interesting, yeah, because some people will say I raised 10 million, but it's really 1 million 10 times.
Yeah.
It's the same line of credit of 1 million that they got from somebody. So, yeah, interesting. And you're on your way to 250 something deals now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely slowed down. I changed my model about 5 years ago. I mean, I was doing, for the first almost 10 years, I did like 20 deals a year, between 12 and 20. It was a lot. Some deals I made 3 grand, you know what I mean? Like they just didn't work out. They were just dumb deals to buy, but they were, I was just so enthralled, in the trenches and just trying to make money, and, really had no idea what I was doing, as far as like business plan and what I just took everything I could handle. You know what I mean?
And what made the change? Was it your wife saying, "Hey, I want some bill
I
time,"
was
or
a business coach.
business coach? Interesting. So she kind of shattered a paradigm for you, or
Yeah, it just made me, kind of write down what I'm doing, what my slate was. I think a slate is important, things that you don't get off that you've been dragging behind you, um, for a long period of time, working on the slate. And then of course a 1, 3, 5 year plan, constantly evaluating that every 6 months. That changes, even your 5 year plan changes. So you can't do certain things if you're trying to align with your plan, right? And then if part of your plan is, at one point one of my goals was to play, or one of my part of my plan was to, play, I think it was like, I don't know, 25 or 50 rounds of golf, right? Well, you can't play 50 rounds of golf if you're working 60 hours a week,
yeah,
all the time, plus everything else you're doing, right? So there had to be a time where I would scale back. So I wanted to do less work and make more money. So that's why evaluating, um, what I'd done, and realized that, I found more profit and less work in larger deals. What I also look back, Chris Wilson used to talk about, when Chris Wilson was the fix and flip instructor when I started. Actually, there was another guy, Frank, was the fix and flip instructor first, and then Chris did it after Frank. I never met that guy, Frank. In fact, I never watched his class. I didn't buy the education in time before they changed it to Chris, but because it was live. But he would say that he didn't get into a deal that wasn't going to make him 100 grand. And that was like in '09 when I was watching his class. And I was like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. It's like, that's just dumb. I'll take a deal for 10 grand. And now
and you
10
did.
years later, 15 years later, I'm like, really it was like 10 years later, because it was 2020 roughly when I started really looking at it, 2021. And I was like, now I get it. That makes a lot of sense. If I'm going to put, 50, 60, 80, 100 grand into a deal, that's a lot of work. I mean, you're really doing some work, and it takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of risk. And so I don't want to make 20 grand. There's no way I'll do a deal that takes 100 grand, even 50 grand of work to make 20,000. And that's like the projection. So imagine you screw it up and you make 10. And plus, if you got a money partner, you're giving them 30% of the equity or 30% of the net, or you got to pay, 15% for the money, whatever it ends up being. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to end up with, you know, 7,000 by screwing it up, because we screw them up all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
Steve,
gotta be.
you know, think, you know, there's nothing wrong with however you start and wherever you're at and whatever you're doing, right? I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Until it's broke, you know, and then, you know, and sometimes you don't realize it's broke until, you know, and typically it's not yours, usually your spouse or your, you know, significant other or a directly related person that's really going to sink in, even though they may notice it and they may have the right advice, you're probably not in tune to listen to it. So it's usually some outsider, you know, somebody else that you seek the advice on, and they'll notice the same thing and say it a different way when your spouse has been saying it all along. You know, I don't know why that is. I mean, some of us are in tune to it a little bit more than others, but so yeah. Um, you know, I think it is like again, I love the idea of the marketing and having that opportunity to make that kind of whatever the cat, you know, like I said, you know, you've heard me say before, but and then we can jump into this and really, I don't know if anybody's got anything you want to discuss in particular. I've got a couple ideas, but I truly wish that I shouldn't say I truly wish. So like I haven't spent a lot of time I used to Gavin and Tony were my coaches in short sales when I started in '07, '08. They were the short sales instructors. And I spent a lot of time. And then Tony came out with a water, read, repeat book, set of videos or tapes or whatever. Kind of like Tony's I think he's more of a, got into personal development coaching and stuff like that. Tony Lister
Mhm.
was Gavin's partner. Um, I haven't spent a lot of time coaching with Gavin since then. I coached with them early on, like by default, because I was doing so many short sales. And but I, you know, if people could take advantage of the coaching that we offer, and it's difficult, you know, you can't, I can't say you can't. Where am I going with this? So like when for ourselves, there's nothing wrong with resetting. So, you know, I hate when people look back and I don't hate it. You know, we have a tendency, human nature, to look back and regret, wish that we would have known it earlier, or whatever it is, instead of just looking forward and go, okay, I can change it now, right? And I know it's easier said than done, but um, it's hard. It's hard to spend 25 grand and then not do anything with it, right? I don't mean people do that. Yes, I meant tell someone, okay, you spent the 25. Now we're gonna take our time. You're actually going to take 3 steps back before you move forward, right? So, um, and everybody's situation is typically in a place where when they find themselves finally spending 25 grand on themselves, the last thing they want to do is sit back and relax and set a plan and get a goal and get a coach. They want to take action. We teach action. Our classes are about action. Um, but um, the uh, the benefit really in Renatus is that we learn the education and decide through the education. You know how people change their major all the time? We're no different, I don't think. You know, when it comes to studying and learning a trade, um, they change the discipline. They don't fit. Sometimes they think they want, or they've been told this is the way to go. They've seen some sort of TV ad. Something has enticed them to be interested in a certain discipline. But then as they get into it, it's difficult. It can't find the right leads. You know what I mean? But we're forced that this is the, you know, wholesaling or flipping or whatever it is. And really, you know, in college, you have um what's the word I'm looking for? advisors, and you go to your student advisor in your field, right? In your major. And there's several. There's student advisors, and then there's the professor advisors, and then you have your own professors, right? That you can talk to. And you realize, maybe you're not cut out for this particular discipline. Maybe what you really, it sounds like you're passionate about is this, right? And so you can change major. And in college, the first 2 years are supporting classes, the classes you need to take that are going to be with you that make absolutely no sense, like humanities or frickin' English or math, and yet we're forced to take them. We don't do that here. We can't. And when I say we can't, we're not going to tell you how to spend your 25,000 and what, there's no, you're not paying us. When I say us, Renatus, and there's too much liability, right? Even to guide you. Those are going to be your decisions. So we make our own decisions on ignorance. We're not prepared yet to make these decisions, or based on someone else's information, someone that brought us in that we knew as a family member, that or we joined a group, and it was what the group was doing. We saw a TV ad or a show on A&E, and we're like, this is what I want to do. But it's interesting is, realistically, I can't imagine that anybody wants to go and get another job and, do a bunch more work, spend a bunch more time away from their family, and create more work. And so realistically, you want to retire. You want to retire earlier. You want to retire wealthier. You want to have the option of having more free time and this sort of thing. So that's the opposite of what we end up jumping into in Renatus. Now, it's far easier said than done, like I said a little while ago. And it's never too late. Like, I did this for 10 years at least. And I hate that I did that. I would rather have been on this call right now and say that I've done 25 deals and owned them all and bought them in 2012. Okay. So I'd rather say I never flipped a house. Right? If I would have gotten a job, if I would have done the marketing, if I would have created a business that creates enough income that I don't need it at the end of the month, if I would have learned, which we didn't have back then, if I would have learned velocity banking, if I would have learned credit repair, if I would have learned business credit, if I would have learned financial planning, raising money, right? Building credit, partnerships and agreements, right? How to avoid lawsuits, all these things first, right? Maybe not done a deal for 2 years, maybe just been broke, maybe would have let one of my houses go to foreclosure, right? I'm not saying change the story. I mean, my story is what it is. But then perhaps you end up, I believe truly when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2006, and I don't read, right? The only time I ever read a lot of books was in jail. That's a whole nother story. I did read a lot in jail. And so
You haven't been to jail, you ain't living.
yeah. Yeah, I get that. Those Facebook things that come across your Facebook? I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. So when I read that book, I realized, that to me really hit. More than Think and Grow Rich, more than any other book, was that the interesting thing is you either make so much money that you pay someone else to manage your money and you trust them, and that's what you do, right? You don't learn it yourself. You're not a trader. You're not some financial wizard. All you're good at is being a surgeon, being a lawyer, being a doctor, being a business owner, being a traveling salesperson 300 days a year. You make a shit ton of money and you give it to someone to double it and triple it over the course of the year, right? Or the rest of us don't make a shit ton of money. We have to figure out a way to make more money, and then we have to figure out what to do with it ourselves. right? And that's rich dad, poor dad. You make more money than you need at the end of the month. So one of the ways you do that is you cut down your expenses. You know, you live the life of a rice and beans. What's that guy's name?
Dave Ramsey.
You live the life of a Dave Ramsey for a little while. And you know, you're Michael Huggins and you shoot down your, you know, you have two jobs, you shoot your stuff, you change what you're doing, you change your, you know, and you got to be coached on this. You got to learn this. Like this isn't something that is human nature. It's the opposite, right? We're so enthusiastic. Now, I'm not saying don't go out and flip a house. I'm not, girls and guys, I'm not teaching you, I'm not telling you what to do and how to do it. I'm just imagine like in my experience, like we want to figure out a way to make more money than we need. And then we learn how to control it and grow it ourselves, right? I mean, if you think about it, if you could learn to lend out your money, learn to what I would call underwrite deals, lend all your money out to somebody else, and you're making 20, 25% secured by real estate and you're not doing any of the work, wouldn't you just rather do that? Like
Wouldn't
that's
you just rather do that? My goodness.
right.
That,
So, but
that's the
we
life.
don't learn that, right? We don't learn how to cut our expenses, how to velocity bank enough. We stay in the world of spending. We're not like, so I'm not saying cut down to rice and beans, but there's a give and take there. And I wish that we could, you know, I would love to see people go into this study from Gavin, spend all 6 or 12 coaching classes before they ever do a deal. You don't need Gavin to work through a deal with you. When you learn and you have a path and you have a plan and you watch the education, it's all in there, right? The education is in itself enough to get us by, right? Especially when you couple it with the other classes. And then you utilize some experts that are already doing it inside the community. What we need, I think, is we need coaches. We need people that have, you know, I mentioned it last week when I was at a, you know, we need someone who's been there, done that, willing to spend the time with us to tell us what to do and not to do. And then we have the tools and the resources that we paid for that will support those decisions we're making, right? And so, but we don't have that patience. We typically are for it. You know, I mean, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any credit, you know, and I had a situation, family situation where, you know, I was making no money. She was making all the money. I mean, it was very stressful. You guys all and girls all know this. So there wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna hold on, babe. I'm gonna spend this money and then I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Unless we sat down and planned it together, right? If you think about like when one of my favorite movies in all time is The Firm, right? And and she knew Mitch uh, Tom Cruise was going to be this genius lawyer, right? So she put him through law school. You know, she worked the whole time, put her own, uh, you know, and they don't show this in the movie, but you hear them talking about it, right? She knew it from the beginning. So she was willing to sacrifice everything while he was getting trained. They were going to live poor. Remember, she goes back to when they would just make eggs, and that's all they had for dinner was eggs because it was cheap, you know, and it was healthy. And then, you know, they lived in a 1 bedroom apartment, and they, you know, they sacrificed all the time that he was going to law school. And then finally, he graduates, you know, top of his class. He, you know, he's smart as hell, and he gets the best job offer. Of course, it's from the mafia, which is really cool. You know, they have the most money, so naturally they're going to pay the most. So there's an idea for you. There's a tip. Go work for the mafia. Lots of good money there. Yep, there's some good you know, skill training too. There's some knife skills in there, maybe some gun skills. I'm not really sure. Probably some espionage skills you guys could learn. So I hope this is not recorded. Just kidding. So anyway, same thing, you know, you make this plan and you're like, I'm gonna figure this out first, and then I'm gonna act, right? Then I'm gonna go practice law. Then I'm gonna go and anyway, so just moving forward, those are some of the things I thought about in 2021, 2020. I was living in my spending a lot of time out in my place in San Diego on the beach, and we love that house, you know, but that house was not going to get us to where what we wanted to do. Like the movie Accountant. Yeah, he worked for the mafia. He sure did. He made a lot of money. That guy was genius. That's a great movie. I didn't mind The Accountant 2. Some of my friends hated it. I thought The Accountant 2 was good, but I watched it on the plane. So, anything on the plane's good. Uh, yeah, cybersecurity. Yep. My nephew's in cybersecurity with a master's degree. Now he's in AI. He's like teaching AI all over the country.
Nice.
He's smart as hell. Yeah, they are good movies. All right. So you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. So just, I would think about, and again, it's hard. I go back to it all the time. I was forced to study the classes, you guys and girls. I was forced to study everything as fast as much as I could because it was only live. We are not. We jump into a fix and first flip challenge. I'm not sure how they monitor. I know they're working on making sure people are watching the classes and stuff like that. But there's only so many classes you can watch in 90 days while you're trying to do a deal. I'm Colombian, don't give me any ideas. I'm telling you, see, you've got the connections. And you're a woman, see, you'd even have a little upside there too, unsuspected. We could teach a little class. We could do a little mafia class here. We could
Create some extra persuasion.
yeah. We need some muscle. Who's the muscle? Steve, maybe? Doug Cook's kind of a genius guy. He'd sit in the background. Bill Winkler's got some connections, I think. So maybe he would he's on the East Coast over there. We'd have to put together some yeah, I'm Italian, by the way. One of my dad's cousins, I guess would be, I don't know what he is to me. He's dead now.
He's dead to me.
He's dead to everybody because the mafia chased him. He was a snitch for the mafia. He ended up turning on the mafia and was a snitch for the FBI, and then they had to go to Florida. One of my family had to move. My great aunt Grace, she's my great aunt. They had to move to Texas to avoid some situation they were in for like 20 years till the one guy died. Then they were able to come back. Yep, my aunt Grace lived till she was 99. Yeah, they were a big not a big mob family, but there was a couple loose ends that got into the into the mafia from the Predebon Italian family. Uh, there was a few other names I can't even remember of our extended family, but my dad, he's like, that's not true. He used to deny it all the time. That's not what happened. I'm like, it's true, Dad. They tell the story around dinner.
What are you talking about?
Right? All right. So,
I was recently reminded, like, one of our jobs that we do here at Renatus, through education, is Plato's allegory of the cave. Are you guys familiar with this? And when you are completely ignorant of a situation, you're like the people down here in the cave. And what you see cast on the wall is what you think is reality. Jobs, bank rates, products, inflation, story, the quality of the food, what's important for families, all these stories being manipulated. And education is the only way to climb out of the cave that we are all in and we find ourselves in. And it's absolutely worth the work for you to climb yourself out of the cave, but even more valuable, life change, profitable is to help other people get out of this cave. Too often people are like, well, we just need to end the Fed and down with the government. And okay, that's so much more work. Just climb out of the cave and see reality. And I love that Renatus is a path for people to do that. Maybe you're crawling on your hands and knees to get out. Maybe you're running out. Everyone's going to go at a different pace, but you got to get out. Otherwise, you're just pretending that shadows are your reality. And I think that's one reason why it's so exciting to be involved in an educational program that can create massive wealth. living in the matrix or facing reality. It's an exciting thing. So wanted to point that out. Also on two different platforms, they're saying 96% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut on this, and on they're saying 93 on. It's on Polymarket.
What is it? Are you frozen?
There we go. We're back.
Oh. Yeah, I think you were saying on Polymarket something. Is he frozen? I think he's frozen.
75 million. So so
We lost you.
anyway, let's get out of the cave, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want Michael to tell the truth. So Laura has a question. What resources do you use to stay informed about what the real estate market is doing? I just watch the news, ABC, NBC. No, I'm totally kidding. I use Chris Wilson, to be honest. And I guess the most important thing is like and I'm a little ignorant to this, Laura, so it's kind of what your tolerance is for it. Um, it's hard to, in my opinion, and experience, to trust any market analysis, right? It's just opinion based on whatever facts they're working with, right? And whatever data they want to choose to work with to get to the result and the opinion that they come to. So honestly, the majority of what I use to gauge the market is the data on MLS, and it's the solds, the price that things are selling for in the market that I'm in, right? Um, Naturally, I listen, to anything that's out there. I definitely listen to experts every once in a while. If I'm talking to lenders, hard money lenders are definitely, I would guarantee that they probably have a source that they use. So when they say, oh, the market's difficult, or, we're a little unsure of this market, then obviously they have concerns, um, because they're lending the money and they're in first position. They have the least amount of risk, but they're conservative. They have to answer to their lenders, their people they get these funds from. So I would definitely, yeah. I mean, the RIA is one thing, but the RIA is run by just a person. Like, they're not a qualified expert by some government. Not that the government would be the one to decide, but you know what I'm saying? Like my buddy that runs our local RIA has less net worth than me. I know him. I've known him a long time. He's phenomenal at what he does. He enjoys it. It's part of his job. Um, and but I don't know that. And everybody that he brings up on the panel every month, they all have their own data. They all have their own opinion on where the market's going, and they'll do market. So I would pay attention to it. But I think the biggest thing is that you pay attention. Like, number one is whatever it is that you're doing in the market. I don't, whatever that is, you got to stick to your guns, right? Like, it's your job. right? So if you're a buy and hold person, if you're a fix and flipper, if you're a builder, whatever it is that you're doing in the real estate market, that's how you make an extra living or your main living, whatever it is. So like I'm not going to change my job because the market changes. I'm just going to change the way I buy, right? I'm going to be aware of how long I have things on the market for, what they're selling for. So the MLS is like the actual pudding, right? Because it's what people are willing to pay for a property at that particular time of this month, this is what people paid for these properties. This is what people think it's worth according to the sales, the ones that are for sale, right? And the ones that are pending, you have a pretty good idea that within the last 30 days, somebody thought it was worth somewhere around this amount. So the MLS gives me a 90 to 6 month window because I can see how long things are on the market for and or even Zillow for that matter. At least Zillow, you can see how long it's been on the market. You can see how many views are on it, and you can see what things have sold for as well as what things are what things are for sale. So that is the real market, right? That's the actual market. Um, the other 2 weeks ago, I was in town, met with one of my lenders on one of my new construction properties, and she's a 55-year veteran in real estate, and she had an opinion. She believes the market's gonna, these rate cuts. She knew these rate cuts were coming. She was very confident in it. We already got the first one, and she's excited about what the market's going to do in the next 6 months. So I take that with a grain of salt, and I look to that enthusiasm, and I have that same feeling, right? Um, I think that we are overdue for an uptick in the market. We haven't had one since 2020, 2 and 23 with with COVID, and that was one that was out of not a natural occurring situation. So, but I trust everything Chris Wilson says. I think I think he's got a genius IQ. And if I had to guess, I think it's one of his passions is to understand and be able to speak to the truth about the market. I think that it's something he enjoys and he's proud of when he can let people know what the real market is doing and what he really believes with all this other crap that's on the news and all this other media stuff. And so he contradicts it quite a bit, and he's usually pretty accurate. So I like Chris Wilson as yeah. Yeah. So, and Steve, nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using that person, whoever you trust.
I mean, polymarket isn't an agenda type of data necessarily, right? It's not news articles and stuff. It's betting. And so people are only going to put their money on the line if they believe they got the most accurate information. And right now, if we look at this, $73 million are on the line for this bet right here of just a 25% or 25 basis point decrease. So that's, I think, more valuable data than a New York Times article or even a Financial Times article. So something else to consider. Don't get too wrapped up in, I mean, because there's so many bets on all kinds of crazy stuff. So I stick to just a few things that are going to affect my business. So anyway, that's something else to consider. And then, so yeah, there's the October 29th rate cut. There's the December 10th. Well, I guess it's not a rate OMC meeting. And then on the 10th, people are betting on a cut right there too. So yeah, you're gonna have to, I mean, it also depends on what your real estate strategy is, what news you need to go for.
But the one thing I don't do, and I mean, you probably heard me say this before too, is, in 2013 and 2015, right? We were fairly new to getting out of the crash. And I had people asking me, what do are you gonna pull back on flipping? Are you gonna hold on? I'm kind of gonna pull out of the real estate market for a little while. And I'm thinking to myself, I make a living this way. I don't know what my other job would be. So no, I'm not going to pull out. I'm going to be aware of what I'm buying and how much I'm paying for it. But I'm going to keep doing what I do. I mean, there's always going to be people that want to buy real estate. Even when we had the greatest crash in the world, right? And 100 million people were in default, there was another 100 million people that were never bought a house before. They were coming out of college, they were starting families, and they needed housing. So there were still people buying houses when and they were ignorant to the crash. They weren't affected by the crash because they didn't own a house. They didn't own stock. They were just making their way through their younger years. So there's always going to need somebody that's going to need to buy a new house or rent a house or whatever it is. So I don't change. I listen to Chris Wilson whenever he speaks. So if he's doing something for Renatus, I'll listen to it. It's not that often, so it's not like a daily thing. But if he always posts something on Facebook, usually once a month, recently he's been posting a lot about just some of the criminal activity that people have been, the feds are out. They put together a task force for real estate investing scams. And so, but if he's usually coming up on Renatus, an event, if he's going to be training somewhere, if he's going to be doing an intensive somewhere, then typically he spends a notch of it, an hour on market analysis, on updating us with where the market is. And he does that on Facebook every once in a while. I don't know if he has an Instagram, to be honest. So I don't spend a lot of time there, which I will soon. But yeah, so that's how I listen to him. I just follow him on Facebook, and I'll text him. I'll text him or email him, or just message him on Facebook if I have a question. Yep, he'll get back to you. So yeah. Anyway, I would say that yeah, these are good questions. I'm also not saying I'm right. Like there's if you're more in tune to data and you appreciate data and you want to follow the market, I would definitely look at what Michael's talking about. And I would definitely look to anybody in your market that is a leader. I would say that brokers, the actual broker themselves, that have been around a while, I would say any major money lender that owns a lending company, they probably have people that are in tune to the market, and they would have an idea as well. But I don't spend a lot of time on it myself. I don't have the time, nor am I very good with data, like collecting it, researching. I also don't know where to look, and what to trust. Right. So, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, just unless people are really putting their money on the line, you should be skeptical of all headlines because they're again going back to the cave story, right? Like those news headlines are trying to get people to do something or act a certain way. And so just be a little extra skeptical. But one of the biggest things is that will tell you what to do and how to present your product to the market is days on market. How long did that thing sit on the shelf before someone bought it? And whether it's commercial, whether it's wholesaling, lease options, there's so many different methods, but you got to look at days on market. Are people buying it? Is it flying off the shelves? Is there a wait time? And Phoenix is totally different than Dayton.
Well,
But it's
yeah, and that's true. I like I said earlier, I love the MLS. Exactly. It tells you what the trends are just by watching days on market, watching what's sold and what hasn't sold, and how much it's selling for and what it's being offered for. And you can see that data pretty easily without even having MLS access to MLS. But one of the other things is to consider is, in all honesty, even myself and Steve Nomura, we play at a pretty small game, relatively speaking. like all of us are in a situation where we're buying a house or two or three or four or five at a time, and we're living in a very short window, right? A 3 to 6 month period, maybe a year if you're building a house. And there's not a lot that can happen in that time frame in the market. Like, especially if you are studying the class and you buy the house with equity, the worst thing is you're going to lose profit, right? If you are watching the trends and the rents are going up, you know what the rents are. They're not going to change in 6 months, right? The rents are not going to all of a sudden overnight go down by 20%. So if your goal is to do a BRRRR method and you're going to buy the house, fix it up, rent it out, and then refinance it, and pull the money back out, you have the time frame to do that unless you're building huge apartments, right? Like when you look at a scale like the guy that built the for example, this dealer guy in Phoenix built a brand new, he bought the land in like '05. So by the time he got the plans to build this new Mercedes dealership in Old Town Scottsdale, it was too little, too late. But he'd invested so much money. There Nobody was buying these high-end cars in '08 and '09 and '10, right? But he had to build the building anyway. He fortunately had the money. He had to sustain and get himself through the crash. And now it's a thriving, I mean, it's just a gorgeous building. And the numbers out of that, the cars being sold out of that building are incredible, but he had to go through that. Same thing with the Aria. When you talk, or no, maybe it was the Win. I can't remember. I think it was the Win. The Win was already slated. They couldn't stop it from happening, and they didn't expect the crash. When people are, when hedge funds do these investments, there's a certain time frame that they're in there, but it's a 3, 4, 5, 6 year plan. And so the market is important to them. There's and this is a very surface level conversation because I'm not privy to their information. I know somebody who owns a hedge fund, but I don't talk to him about it, right? So I don't know. But what I'm saying is that's a whole different level of investing where people are doing REITs and they're, you know what I mean? And they're doing this sort of thing. We are in a bubble that is very small and there's very little time involved in what it is that we're doing. So it's hard for the market to change overnight. Like if you think about the crash, and many of you are younger and don't even maybe know that much about the crash, but what's interesting about the crash is that the majority of people were affected because what were they doing? They were buying houses that they normally would have bought. Many of them weren't investors until they got greedy, right? And they got it was like a no-brainer. They could sign on the dotted line. They had good credit. You guys all know the story, right? So it was really easy to just get a rental property. It didn't really need to cash flow because it was going up at 20% a month. So there was all these things, and they would buy it with a prepayment penalty because they'd get this loan that they didn't have to qualify for. They didn't have to prove income, right? It was a stated loan. There was all these different factors. And so there really wasn't a plan. They were just going to hold it for 2 years and sell it. Like that was literally the thing. Nobody was really investing in real estate except for some people that had been flipping houses for a long time. And so they were still flipping so many houses as fast as they could. And they were able to access 110, 120% money. There was no longer hard money needed 10 or 20% down. In fact, hard money in 2007, 2006, 2005, they were lending money at 100 to 120% of the value of the purchase price. Right? So you buy a house for 100,000, they give you 120. Why? Because they had a ton of money and they were like, well, this is a no-brainer for us. Like it's going up. These people are selling these houses. Why would we only give them 80 grand when we can give them 120 at 20%? Right? So it was a different world. So most of the people that got caught, they got caught in their own house. They stripped all the equity out of their own house that they lived in. with the intent of refinancing it later on, right? They stripped all the money out of their rental houses, or they bought a rental house with the intent of the only exit was refi, right? But when the market went below it, they couldn't refi it anymore. So now they were stuck with this payment. Like, we're not doing that. So even if this crash comes, if a market adjusts, we're buying things with 20% equity in them. So by the time the market changes, it doesn't matter. You're only going to lose profit, right? Unless you make mistakes, you carry it too long. Like, there's always going to be a chance for loss, but it's not significant. Like, when we talk about losing money on a property, if the house is worth 100 grand and you buy it for 100 grand, and then you're going to put 30,000 into it, and you want to sell it for 160 when it's only worth 160 when you sell it, right? Because of the way you fixed it up. And then the market adjusts, you're going to lose money. Now, you're not going to lose $100,000. You might lose 10,000, right? It might sell for 160, and then you got closing costs, and you didn't, you know what I mean? You don't make your profit, and you might lose a few bucks. But again, it's a short window. You're doing this deal in 6 months max, and you're selling the house for 10% less than you thought. So you sell it for a $15,000 discount, and you lose 10 grand, right? So, but most of the time we buy $100,000 house in today's market for 80 grand. Then we put 20 into it to make it worth 150. And all of a sudden, if it's worth 130, but we're only into it for 100, and we carried it for 10 and we sell it for 10, we still make $5,000, $10,000 on a $130,000 house, which should have sold for 150. And this all happened within 3 to 6 months, maybe 8 months max. So the market's not, it may be slowing down, it may be stopping, it may be going stagnant, it may be whatever it is. It may drop 10%, 20%. 20% of 150 is 30 grand. You still sell it for 120, you get all your money back because you bought it for 80 and you only put 20 into it, right? If that's the math. I'm just doing simple math for us right now. But if we think about it, right? If we buy a rental, we know that we should not be buying rental properties to appreciate and hope that we can refinance it in 2 years. 2 years is a long time, and anything can happen. We can't predict it. We could go to war. We could have a president change. All kinds of things can happen in a 2-year plan, right? So if your plan is a 2-year prepayment penalty and you hope to refinance it, you better have a lot of equity in the property. If you got equity or money to put down, then you can refinance the property and get into a lower rate, right? But if you don't have good credit and you don't have a lot of equity, right? You want to be at 70% on the dollar, right? If you're at 80, 85% on the dollar, you're not going to get a very good refi, right? That's a risky refi, right? So especially, but if you're doing a Burr method and you're buying it today, right? And you're doing DSCR, which normally will come with a 1 or 2 year prepayment penalty, but you don't care because now you're in the DSCR loan, right? You're already in the long-term finance, at least a 5-year loan. But in the meantime, you're buying it with hard money and private money. You're going to buy it below market value in its as-is condition. So it's worth 110 as is, or 100,000 as is, right? You buy it for 90, right? You only get a 10% discount, no big deal, but you're going to rent it out and hold it, right? So you buy it for 90, you put 10 grand into it. But now you rent it at a 1.5 DSCR, right? 1.5 ratio, 1.25. So now you get a 6% loan. You take out the private money, you take out the hard money. It's worth 160 based on the rental income, right? And you now can refinance it in 2 to 3 months after buying it. And you're in a long term, even if you have a prepayment penalty, to get the rate low enough to cash flow. And even if you're in a big market, a Utah market, Florida market, Vegas market, whatever, Phoenix market, California market, and it doesn't cash flow. Cash flow is like $100, right? If it's a single family, even if it's a duplex, who cares? Follow me on this, right? Because if you buy the house with hard money and private money of somebody else's money, right? And you're not using any of your own credit, and then you refinance the property based on your credit or someone's credit that you have, which could be as low as 660. It's not a big deal. You don't even have to have 700 scores. You're gonna have a longer prepayment penalty, or you're gonna have higher loan to value. I mean, a lower loan to value, which means they're only going to go to 65 or 70% for you instead of 80%. So you're going to have equity in the property based on better rents, right? But the interest rate's still high enough where you pay everybody off. So you have a loan, you don't have any of your own money in it, and you don't have any private money in it. You got everybody, or even if you only have a little bit of private money and you'll pay them back on a flip or something later, right? So you don't get all their money out. But you have no money of your own, but you're in a major market where most of the time, by the time you resell this property, you're going to get depreciation, you're going to get expenses written off on your taxes, you're going to get $100 a month or whatever it is, you're going to have a little bit of cash flow, but you're going to have the appreciation of a major market. So the market goes down a little bit, and 3 years later it comes back up stronger than ever, and what was worth 150 you sell for 180 and you make $30,000 in 3 years. That's $10,000 a year you made on the property, right? With no money. It's an infinite return because you paid everybody back all their money, and you've got this lame DSCR loan that costs you no money except some sort of a little bit of credit. Do Chris Wilson class on Renatus? Yeah. Yep. Okay. So anyway, that was my little stint on the market. It doesn't really, we're not playing a game big enough where we're building, 300 units and it takes us 3 years to build it in phases, or we're building large development communities where people, you know what I mean? These builders, and these builders don't just build one community, right? They're building all over the United States. Shea Homes, you know, all these people are building all over the United States. So if one area doesn't get done in time, and they sell in phases, right? So typically if you can imagine, phase 1, 2, and 3 pay off the entire project. So phase 4, if it gets caught in some sort of downslide, they start discounting it, right? They're throwing in the financing. They're making money on financing. They're making money on all the appliances and all that stuff, all the fixtures, because they're throwing them into a 30-year loan that they're financing and going to sell off on the secondary market. It's a whole nother world. So when they get affected by the crash, when I say the crash, we're not going to have a crash like that for quite some time, but even a 20% discount or a 20% low in the market, they've already covered their ass. They've already sold out phase 1, 2, and 3 in the upside, right? They've held property, I would imagine, all over the country for years, waiting to develop that land. They might even develop it by means of entitle the land, a Shea Homes, a Lennar Homes, whatever it is, DR Horton, some sort of local builder. They've entitled the land and the writing's on the wall, and they just sell off the lots, right? Like we're doing in Oak Island. We're not going to build them. We'll just sell them off entitled. We've got utilities, we've got driveways and sidewalks, and we sell it off. Let somebody else take the risk of building it. If they win, great for them, but we cut our losses and we move on to the next part. These people are building all over. It's like if you're doing 10 deals a month, 3 of the deals are going to suck. You're going to lose money, but the other 70 not only pay you well, but they cover any of the losses on the other 30. You expect to lose 30%. But that's a bigger game that people play. It's not a game where we're flipping 1, 2, or 3 houses at a time. We're buying single family rentals. We're buying a quadplex, even a 12plex, whatever. You're buying it. It's going to take you 3 to 6 months to raise the money, another 3 to 6 months to capitalize on it, close on it, sell it, or fix it up and then rent it out and then sell it. Like the market doesn't move that fast. You're in and out of that game. All you're doing is playing with your profit. If you did it right, you might make less or make more than you anticipated. All right. I got 8:30. If anybody, 8:30 Pacific, 11:30 Eastern. Anybody got anything else? Thoughts, comments, questions? Little tangent there, but that's good. These questions, whenever you guys and girls have something, it's phenomenal because I can just, I was lucky. I got to spend, my entire last 15 years in real estate. So I was very in tune to all of this stuff because I was living it. So I get to share it with you. Now I've slowed down a little bit, not on not on work, but just on what I'm doing. So it's a little bit different. I'm not in the fix and flip day-to-day trenches, but I still deal with contractors and everything. And I have a pretty big rental portfolio. So, you know, I'm familiar with some of that stuff, so I can help you on that as well. Yeah. Right on. I'm gonna click that. What is that?
Awesome. Yeah, I just put Chris Wilson's interview in the chat from Snyder and crew.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So that's going to give you a great insight into how his mind works. And then just take screenshots or pause when he's pulling up charts and look at the websites from the charts he pulled, is what I've been doing. And then just looking up on my own.
Yep.
So,
And that'll be, yeah, because that's what he does. You know, he just knows how to study it and knows how to analyze it and understands what it's saying. But you know, specifically if you've got a question about the market relating to a deal you're gonna do or you're doing or you're thinking about doing in the future, I mean, if you message him on Facebook, I'm sure he will give you more than enough information. It's his like he loves that stuff. And you know, he loves to share it and help. So
perfect. Well, just like you, Bill. So we appreciate your time. Takeoff Tuesday, another gem, a lot of resources, a lot of ideas. And then just remember this, the allegory of the cave and how education is getting people out of the cave, getting ourselves out of the cave. And we got to fight through the FUD. But on the other side is a brand new life with fresh air and real sunlight. So it's worth the work, it's worth the struggle, and not only for yourself, but helping others. Lead a team and make a difference. So I appreciate you all. We'll see you in a week in Utah for the E3. Can't wait to see you all there. And have a great day. Bye for now.
all right, see you guys. Bye. Thanks everybody.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks,
Thank
Michael.
you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you,